All right, hey everybody, we are back with our next episode of the Avexia Exchange, an exchange of ideas around all things fitness, wellness, and community. And we've been looking forward to this one for a long time with our dear friend Randy Hetrick. As we start out every episode, I always ask my partner, Krem, how you doing, brother?
Hey, brother, I'm doing good. Was in Maui last week.
Yeah?
Spur of the moment trip. It was nice. Tried to put an offer. We put an offer on a condo. When I got out there, it wasn't as good as I thought it would be.
Yeah.
But I had 4 days by myself. Swam with the whales, which is I had a good time with 2 whales, actually. The mother and the calf. And
Free Willy?
Free Willy. It was, you ever swim with whales?
I haven't.
Okay. Have you?
No, I have not. It's on the list.
It's pretty badass.
I've swum with dolphins.
Yeah, but planned. Mine was on the beach, and I was on this by myself, and they swam by, filmed it, and I'm like, I jumped in and went after them.
I need to go get close and personal.
It was freaking amazing. So if you haven't swum with the whales between December and April, you go to Maui, and 10,000 whales cruise from Alaska. They go to Maui for the humpbacks, they have babies and a mate, and the ocean is alive.
Nice.
So I'm alive because we got this man here.
We are so stoked. Thank you, Randy, for joining us. Aside from being a dear friend, Randy is the inventor and creator of one of the most versatile and successful apparatuses in the entire fitness industry, which is TRX.
Apparatuses.
Is that you like that word?
I like it.
I haven't used that word.
I'm not sure I've ever been introduced that way.
Pull it out. Device, system,
no modalities,
apparatus, modality, whatever you want to call it. It is revolutionary. It's changed the fitness industry, but that's how most people know him. But we know him as just an awesome guy, a wonderful father, a great entrepreneur, community leader, Stanford MBA, just amazing human being, man. So welcome to the show.
Thank you guys for having me. We've been talking about doing this for a while, so I'm glad we were finally able to all of us be in the same place at the same time.
Yeah, you're a busy man, though.
And I didn't cancel on you. You canceled on me the first one.
I don't. I remember it differently. I remember it differently.
We don't care, man. We're just glad you're here, man. How are you?
I'm good. I'm busy, which is good.
Yeah.
It's better than the alternative.
Absolutely.
Although there are days that I wonder about that.
Right. True. Like swimming with the whales.
Yeah.
Sometimes seems like a better option than.
Yeah. I'll do it, man. Yeah, swim with the whales.
I did swim against the dolphins way back in the day.
Yeah.
Although, I'm not, now that I think about it, I'm not sure I can talk about that.
Yeah.
I'll have to tell you about that later over a beer.
Yeah. Is that confidential? Yeah. Classified material.
Back in the day.
Yeah. Back in the day. But I don't recommend that, by the way. They're way smarter and way faster than we are.
Yeah.
We flop around on the surface like a wounded mammal of some sort, and they just come and just...
But they don't have any ill intent, do they?
I think they're like dogs chasing a ball. They think it's fun.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So hit you at full speed inside.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I never thought about that.
Yeah.
Because you always see the pictures, and it's a lot more docile than that.
Yeah. So I'm good. I haven't been doing that recently. Just working my ass off. TRX is cranking. Hopefully we'll talk about that a little bit.
We will.
And, and I got this pesky little startup that I started while I was away from TRX called Outfit. And it's flapping its wings and trying to get off the ground. So
we'll talk about that.
Yeah, it's a great product, by the way.
Yeah, so it's good. And
And we'll talk about Y-bells, maybe?
Y-bells.
Yeah.
We should definitely talk about Y-bells. Do you guys have any of those in here yet,
No,
by the
we
way?
need to get some in here, man.
God damn, I got
Those
to
listeners
talk to the guys that run this place.
Yeah, 100%. But, it's just awesome to hear your story, Randy, how you came with TRX and just your background.
Let's definitely get into that, but I want to know how you two knuckleheads met.
Yeah, well, he's an icon in the fitness industry. Obviously, in the '90s when I came back from Marin, started my fitness-wise, my stores, the big trade shows. There was 2 of them: the Super Show in Atlanta, and then the Ursa shows. And TRX came out, and obviously I was a buyer because of the stores, and heard about this strap, this modality that's changed just fitness. And I went to his massive booth, and they were there.
Didn't you have like the biggest booth at Ursa or something like
Well,
that?
I mean, by the time if Warren came to a massive booth, that was definitely a few years in, because I can tell you the first booth was not massive.
Yeah.
The first booth was smaller than this room, and it had a door that had been welded to a platform so I could hang 2 straps, one off each side. And if you can believe it, I was the booth babe. And so, things were desperate. And it was, it was literally,
do though, brother.
It was a 10 by 10, the first one. Wow. And we just were selling 1 strap at a time to trainers mostly. Mm-hmm. And hence why I would have met Warren at the time. Yeah. And then, just that ended up being a great strategy, because if we gave the trainers a tool that would help them seem even more brilliant to their clients, then they were all about it. And then they would introduce it to all the clients, right? And every now and then one of the clients would go, I have one of those for my house as well.
Right.
And just little by little, just whittled away. But then the booth did get pretty big at some
Yeah,
point.
so I was trying to make it look better because it's the big booth. But yes, I remember those days. Yeah. But I mean, what a great product, because you can just take that for a home user and just put in your suitcase, and you got a gym in your suitcase right there in your hotel room. Bam.
Yeah, what's funny about it is I remember one of the guys that I had involved with a company really, really, really early, right after I got out of business school. And he was a big gym rat. And I was talking about, initially we thought this product was going to go straight to consumer because, I'd created it in the SEAL teams for training when we were on the road. So the initial name of TRX was actually Travel Fit. Ah. And the idea was, okay, well, this is going to be, it was called the Travel X, the complete portable exerciser. And that was where we started, with no idea how hard retail was. No idea of really the economics of retail or any of that. And I remember I started thinking actually, I think trainers would really like this gear, and I think gyms might be where we go. And I'll never forget this big meathead saying to me, dude, if you think they're ever going to put these in gyms, you're fucking spinning your wheels. Wow. Needless to say, he's no longer with us.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's pretty funny when you think about that, because that was how preposterous it seemed, that the idea that we would have, 12 feet of nylon webbing not only hanging in gyms, but ultimately displacing huge banks of selectorized machines or cardio, right? To put in a big frame. Back then, 20 years ago, that seemed preposterous.
TRX, what does that stand for?
Well, so the short answer is total body resistance exercise. But back then I had the X, this anthropomorphic X, like a body in motion.
Yeah.
Was shorthand for exercise.
Love it.
Right. And so, I used to, if we would have been sitting on a plane at the time and you'd have been asking me what I did, I'd be trying to explain it to you. You'd be like, well, wait a minute. So does it have weights? I'd be like, no, it doesn't have any weights. And, you'd say, well, so it stretches like a rubber band. I mean, it doesn't stretch either. And, you'd be looking at me going, well, how do it work, Randy? And I would describe it as, well, it's this total body resistance exercise tool. And you say that enough times, total body resistance. I know technically it should be TBRE.
Yeah, right.
But that's not sexy. TRX, that's sexy.
TRX is really, it actually really is sexy, man. Let's back way up though, man, because you invented, so the story is, and I know you've told it a million times and we apologize for having you tell it again, but our audience wants to hear it.
I want to hear it again.
So the old lore is that you discovered this as part of your training exercise, being out deployed somewhere, and you just wanted to stay fit and used parachute webbing and straps and so forth. But even and we'd love to know sort of the details behind that. But before that, did you, like when you were in college or even before the service, did you have a love for fitness? Like, was it even on your radar?
Oh yeah. I mean, I'd been an athlete kind of all the way up, and I was a wrestler all through high school, and I played volleyball, and I played volleyball competitively and thought I would walk on at USC and make the roster, and that turned out USC won the national championship two of the 4 years when I was there, and I was like, oh, so there are levels to this thing. But while I was still kind of banging around with the volleyball team, realizing I would never in a million years get on the court, the rowing program would recruit from, basketball players and
big dudes,
volleyball players that were never going to see action on the court and come say, hey, you could row in our boats. And ultimately I rowed through college, and then my junior year just got a wild hair that I wanted to. It was on the back of sort of the Reagan Revolution, right, where service was kind of cool again. Yeah. And I wanted this combination of, kind of both serving the country and proving to myself, like, it was kind of the ultimate man test, that I decided I'd become a Navy SEAL.
Wow.
And there really wasn't a whole bunch more to it than that, other than I actually jumped one little step, which was I decided I was going to go into special operations. I knew nothing about any of them, other than, and this sounds funny to say in retrospect, my single selection criteria was I'm going into whatever program has the highest attrition during selection. Whichever one has the highest attrition, that's where I'm going. And that sort of explains what my mindset at the time, right? Yeah. And it turned out that, the SEAL teams had by far the largest attrition, which is about 85%. And when I found that, I said, oh, well, that's it.
Wow. 8 to 9 out of 10 guys drop out. That's insane.
Yeah. And that's been pretty consistent, amazingly, all the way. I mean, some classes are even bigger than that.
Where did that mentality come from, man? Was that your dad or like your upbringing? Or
I think my dad definitely had my dad came from the old school sort of school of, kid raising. He inherited that from his dad, who was kind of a depression, grew up in Kansas during the Depression era. And so they were kind of hard stock. And my dad always had this, my dad was an incredible dad, but he also had this kind of knock you down to make you stronger mentality, which is definitely not in vogue anymore, by the way, lest any fathers think that's the way to go. But it definitely instilled in me kind of I'd say a chip on the shoulder, right? Like I did a lot of things throughout my life to sort of prove my old man wrong. And then, he continued that all the way along. I mean, when I was, a squadron commander at SEAL Team 6, he was still telling me, when are you going to get out, stop playing cops and robbers and go get a real job, right?
Squad commander.
It was just sort of, but it was all with the best intentions. It was just his style. And it really drove me a lot. I try not to do it the same way with my boys, but because I think there's probably as much negative baggage as there is positive when you do it that way. But he definitely made me want to show what I was made of.
So, question for you on as during the Navy SEAL program, Hell Week. It's all about Hell Week. So, at what point did you ever think you were going to DOR during that time?
Never. I thought the entire time, man, this sucks.
Yeah, you know what DOR is, right? Drop on request.
Drop on request.
Yeah.
So brutal, man.
Yeah, no, it's, part of it was because I worked it's really hard to get a slot. And it was then, and it's massively harder now. Like the guys, that's what's so impressive about the attrition statistics is that the guys who start the classes are so incredibly carefully weaned to get a slot.
Yeah.
That then 85% of them don't make it with that class. I mean, it's a little misleading in that guys get hurt, guys, don't meet a standard, and so they get rolled back. If you get hurt or you don't pass a standard, I think they'll roll you back twice. And what that means is you get to either go work on the thing that you failed, or you get to heal from the injury. And then the next class that's coming along, you pick up at the beginning of the phase that you got hurt with. So I'd say it's more like 50% of the guys that don't make it. So 50% of 85, so 42.5 if my math serves me correctly. See, I'm telling you.
You did have your key.
It's that MBA. That's that MBA. 42.5% quit.
Yeah.
The other 42.5%, plus or minus, get hurt or fail a standard and get to roll back and try it again. And but it's still, 88.5 out of 10 not making it is daunting.
Insane. So I'm curious. So take us to that era, because I don't know if it was like a day where you're like aha, or it was like a series of days or months that you sort of put two and two together for this modality. But what kind of training were you doing before, and why didn't calisthenics in just picking up big rocks and shit work for you? Why did you have to invent such a revolutionary apparatus?
But if you think about it, I mean, wrestlers, right, and grapplers do a ton of body weight stuff and a ton of climbing ropes.
Right.
So that had been my orientation. Okay. And then that same thing carries on in rowers, right? It's another lot of body weight, ton of pull-ups, not a lot of heavy iron.
Right.
Right. And so that was already kind of part of my mental DNA when it came to training. And I was a pretty serious athlete. So the idea of going into the SEAL teams wasn't a stretch at all. And I kind of had that mix of, I was pretty big, but still pretty fast. I could swim fast. If you put me up against a swimmer, a collegiate swimmer, they'd drop me. If you put me up against a collegiate runner, they'd drop me. But when you took the average of both, and that tends to be,
you'd outrun the swimmer, you'd outswim the runner.
Right. And I think that tends to be sort of what I always describe SEALs are almost like Malamutes, right? Malamutes are the dogs that pull the sleds.
Yeah.
They're not going to run as fast as a greyhound, and they're not maybe as strong as a Newfoundland, but they're going to smoke either one of them in most things. And that's kind of like what they search for. And then they search for people who just don't, refuse to quit. And so that was all kind of part of my DNA. The reason that I came up with the idea of the suspension trainer is I was deployed on operation, and we deployed a lot. And when you deploy back then, you couldn't take anything with you. Right. There was no, you're not loading up your gym gear to take on the road with you. The stuff's heavy. You don't have a place to put it. And then if you're blowing out on a real world op, all you have is your combat gear. But then very often you end up sitting for long periods of time. And, eventually, if you're forward deployed into an area of operations, eventually the rear will bring you some stuff to train with. You'll end up building some pull-up bars and that kind of stuff. But, back then it was a lot of, there weren't a lot of protracted operations. Mm-hmm. There were a lot of little stuff that came along, a lot of police-like stuff today, or, stuff that tended to be more toward espionage than ultimately happened with Afghanistan, right? That changed everything. Mm-hmm. You ended up with 15 years of forward deployment.
Right.
But if you think pre-Afghanistan, you'd be in and out and you'd do little things here and there, and you wouldn't have any gear. And on one of these deployments, I was over along in Southeast Asia. It was an underway ship profile, thinking about how to do pull-ups, because you got to get yourself up the side of a ship with a bunch of gear on your back. And I had completely accidentally, as I was packing, frantically packing my gear, because as an officer in a unit, you'd be planning, and then the last thing is you'd run down to your cage and start stuffing stuff into your bag and make sure hopefully you didn't miss something. Mm-hmm. Well, I had grabbed a flight suit, and underneath this flight suit was my blue belt, my jiu-jitsu belt, and I stuffed it in a bag. When I end up on the other side of the world, pulling all this stuff out of my bag, and out falls, my jiu-jitsu belt. And I'm like, I can literally remember thinking like, oh, that's going to be super useful. and then, as days turned into more days, and sitting around on a cot thinking about, God, it'd be nice to be able to do some pull-ups. And I happened to, for whatever reason, I looked across this little warehouse where we were, and I saw a door, which was a bathroom door. I had this jiu-jitsu belt sitting there, and the spark of inspiration was, what if I tied a knot in the end of this and threw it over that door and closed the door?
Wow.
If I could create the motion of climbing up a caving ladder, right? Those little wire ladders. Right? And so I threw it over the thing, and then I kind of leaned back on it, lifted myself up, leaned back, lifted myself up, switched hands, the other side. I was like, damn, that's pretty cool. And so I do always ask people, like, if they know what the first exercise ever technically on what became the TRX was, and it's the power pull. Power pull is where you hanging onto the handle, you lean away,
That's great.
and then you pull yourself up and reach toward the anchor, and that motion is what ultimately we were trying to do to get up the side of a ship. And so that was the beginning of it. And then I, took it down and went, wait a minute, what if I tie a knot in the middle of it? Put it over the door, closed it. Well, now I had two ends sticking out.
Yeah.
Now I can do rows. And I can do curls. But then when I went to turn around and try to do presses, they were too short.
Yeah.
Right. So then this is where the parachute webbing part of the lore comes in.
Yeah.
We used to carry these spools of webbing that they used out in the rigger's loft to make and repair parachutes. We carried these spools because you use it for all kinds of stuff, right? Like that's a little secret, is like with some webbing, some paracord, and some rigger's tape, you can conquer the world. So we would always carry this stuff, right? And I went over and took 6 feet of that off, cut it, tied it in the middle of the belt, tied a knot on the end of the webbing, threw it over the door, and all of a sudden you had something that looked like the Cro-Magnon version of what's hanging out here in your gym.
Tell me you still have that karate belt?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Do you have it in a frame?
I should have brought it.
something?
I have it in my house.
What a great story, man.
I should have brought it.
Yeah,
I could
that's
have.
amazing.
Should be in the
museum,
museum of
right?
fitness.
Well, we keep talking about at our new HQ in Delray Beach, we keep talking about doing a kind of a history wall, because now, I mean, it's shocking for me to say it out loud, but TRX is 23 years old.
Yeah.
Right? It's insane. I mean, there aren't that many companies in the fitness industry that live that long, right? And so we've got a lot of history, and we've had a lot of incredible athletes.
Dude, your HQ in San Francisco was so badass. I loved going there, where your big training facility was, it was open to the public too. Yeah.
Big
classes, Rafa Van Ness, man.
We've recreated.
Super
COVID
cool.
pretty well killed that, right? The combination of COVID and the wrong private equity guys. But we with TRX 2.0, we basically created, one of these days you guys get out to Florida, you'll have to come and see it, because the HQ out there is every bit as cool. I think actually it's cooler.
I bet.
And it's, got a great big training center open to the public. Because, if you're going to be a training brand that doesn't train anybody, it's kind of weak. So we think that we always got to have at least one training center that's training real people, and that you get to test out all the crazy ideas you come up with.
The crazy thing is to this day, our TRX classes are packed, man. It's just a modality that will not go away. I
love it.
It's the best. It is a great modality, man.
And it just seems like, for a guy that wasn't, as steeped in the fitness industry as you guys were, it just seems like it's something that's always been there. So when you say it's 23 years old, I'm like, that's all? Because it just seems like it's been around.
It's so funny,
forever.
Scott, that you say that, because the idea that those straps would become a staple 20 years ago was a fantasy that seemed preposterous, even to me. I thought, wow, maybe we'll be a fringe. Maybe we'll get in there and we'll be a fringe. I knew that how hard it could be. What I hadn't figured out yet was actually the opposite, how easy and approachable and accessible the straps could be. Because I was still thinking, this is a goddamn commando tool.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I didn't really, one of the funny things is the suspension trainers become one of the top modalities for training seniors, which I am rapidly becoming. But that was never part of the vision. Right. It was like, how do you destabilize your base of support and then load it and make everything hard? But it works exactly the opposite, where you can take a nice broad base of support and then use the straps to actually help lift yourself.
Yeah,
right. For seniors who, squats for a lot of older people are pretty intimidating if you don't have something to help hold on to. So, who knew? But I think that between the tool itself being so versatile, and then the one, I would say I've had lots of really bad ideas and made some really bad decisions. One of the most brilliant decisions that I ever made, for sure, was the decision to make trainers our number one customer and partner with trainers in their practices. Because, when you say trainer, that covers a pretty broad swath from everything from personal trainers in your gym out to performance trainers, training athletes, out to physical therapists, helping people recover. So partnering with that cohort of fit pros, let's call it that, was the best decision ever, because they made the straps so much more, based on their own expertise and their clients' needs.
I mean, I'm a huge Saints fan. Drew Brees is a huge advocate for your product, right? He trains on that. I've watched a lot of his videos, and he's always on the TRX.
Yeah, DB's an awesome dude.
Yeah.
He was, one of our early supporters.
That's awesome.
I met him right after he had his quote unquote career-ending shoulder injury at the Chargers. Yeah. And another good mutual friend of ours, Todd Durkin, was, gave me a call and said, hey, I got this young guy who, I'm helping him rehab his shoulder, and I think he could use your straps. Can you send a couple of these down? And I was like, yeah, of course. Sent him down, man, and boy, was that a good investment, because Drew ended up, being he's such a good dude. He ended up being such a great piece of the brand's ascension. We saw last weekend. He just
got inducted.
First ballot.
Oh, did he really? I didn't see that. Yeah,
first ballot
That's
Hall of
fantastic.
Famer.
Yeah,
and
so
couldn't happen to a better
No, he's
guy.
a great guy.
Sure.
Great role model.
Good stuff.
So I can just imagine you after the floodgates just going back to the barracks and stuff. The floodgates must have opened. Like, what are all the different ways I can turn this into something? Like, I can imagine, right? You're like, well, if I turn it around and if I do this and I add this, like, how did that process sort of unfold? Like,
well, initially it was funny because even that very first day, right, where I was totally experimenting. The funny culture within a SEAL unit is that, first they mock, and then they, immediately, because it's about the most resourceful group of cats you could ever imagine, then they begin to improv. Yeah. But the first thing was like, I can still remember one of the guys saying, like, "What are you doing over there, princess? Trying to build a muscle?" and then, but instantly, then you had, three guys going, "Wait a minute, get out of the way. Let me try it. Let me try this. Let me try this." And so that period of time, all the way up through, I would say, the first couple of years of the company, were like this renaissance around this 12 feet of nylon webbing.
Yeah.
Every single day we came in to, the office. My office was out on the western boundary of Sunset, the Sunset at Taraval and 17th. And we had a 4x6 set up across this tiny little office. I mean, the whole office was probably the square footage of what we're in between this and that room. Yeah. And we spanned the walls so we could hang a couple of straps in there. And we coved the wall behind it. So that was also our film studio. Yeah. And just about every day we'd come in there and create new stuff. And that went on for, a couple of years. And then trainers kept adding to it, because every time we'd go to a show or a conference, some trainer with a specialty in a particular area of expertise would come up and be like, "Hey, you ever seen this?" And we'd go, "Damn. Wow. That's good. Can we put that in?" And they'd be like, "Yeah, of course." And so we'd add it. And
is there an official count on how many ways you can use it?
Well, the problem with it is there's probably, I don't know, there's probably 1,000 root moves, but then there's all these progressions off of them, right? And so, I have no idea. Like, if you, I just always tell some people that, like, look, if there's something you want to train for, tell us, and we'll program the moves that we bet you're missing in your program, right? Or the way that you do them with these straps will be different and will be helpful. And that was another thing that we did, was we never said ever, no, don't do that, do this.
You have to use it this way. Yeah.
We never said, this is all you should do, or you should do this so many times a week. What we said was, whatever you do is cool. We just want to be part of it.
Yeah.
So let us figure out where we can add a little. And I knew we were getting somewhere. I'll never forget when Jay Cutler came into a show one time. It was, this epic bodybuilder. Yeah. I don't know how many times he was Mr. Universe. The dude can push around some weight, right? And he came in and was like, I freaking love these straps, and let me tell you why. Like, all the little tiny muscles that I need to tie together to make the big ones work the way they're supposed to are hard to work. And the big ones are easy. The little ones are hard. And that was, his comment about the straps was like, they make me shake. And, and all those stabilizers prevent me from leaking.
Yeah, that's right.
Strength and force out the backside. So,
or having, weakness points, breaks in the chain, so to speak.
Yeah.
And is it methodically thought through? Because your certification program is amazing. So, I mean, to become a instructor for TRX, you really have to go through a pretty good program and learn the modality. A lot of people get injured on them if they don't know what they're doing. So, having a good instructor is the key, man.
Yeah,
it's the key.
I mean, that's TRX is as much an education company
that's what I love about it.
as it is a product company, and with functional training tools. I mean, we do a lot more products obviously than just the suspension trainer, but all the functional training tools that depend on like solid foundational movement right before you load it. Mm-hmm. So,
like your rip trainer is great. We brought that in. We have some of those here now too. That's a great modality too. It's the one. Have you seen the long yellow stick?
Yep.
And then it has elastics and like a bungee. Yep. Man. You get some really good rotational movements from that.
That's why when we bought the Rip from some guys, Pete Holman, who was the inventor, and we bought them really early to market because we saw, I was looking at the straps saying, okay, the straps are good for a lot, but there's certain things that we need some gaps we need to fill. And one of them was, the ability to train rotational. We didn't have that many movements for other than torso rotation. I mean, you can create them, but at some point things get contrived and you're like, there's a better tool for this. So the Rip Trainer is amazing for rotational. Yeah. And then for power, right? When you add speed, because generally, certainly there's some movements on the suspension trainer that you can add speed to, but in general, it's a strength tool, right? Mm-hmm. You can make it cardio by extending the work ratio or the work interval and shrinking the rest interval. But in general, the straps are built for building strength and a ton of core strength. Yeah. So, the Rip Trainer was one that we snapped up early so that you could do, rotation and power. And then, we started selling a lot of other stuff that our customers basically just said, look, why are you making us go to Power Systems or Perform Better to buy our balls and our bands why don't you guys make them so we can have one, one neck to choke, right? One neck to choke and one brand. We don't have to it doesn't have to look like a NASCAR, car in our,
which is really cool from a gym owner standpoint, just how sort of aesthetic everything looks. Yeah, well, that's a good segue in the business. So how did you go? When did you know it was going to be a business? I know you mentioned earlier you thought it would only be a fringe aspect of the fitness industry, but you had the confidence to lean into a business.
Well, fortunately, I pivoted out of the military when I was having my first baby and into, I knew I was, all right, I got to go do something else. And I had the chance to pivot through business school at Stanford. So that gave me a couple of years to sort of figure out, all right, what do I want to do? And the first year I mostly just suffered because I hadn't had math in like 25 years, right? And I drop in next to all these whiz kids. I was the granddaddy of the class by 6 years, I think.
Yeah, that's all right.
The average age was like 20, or the modal age was 26 and a half, and I was 36 and a half.
At Stanford.
Yeah.
And that curve must have been great, like 80% was probably still a high curve, right?
The only reason I was even there. Yeah, the only reason I was even there was because of the SEAL team background, right? I mean, other than that, I never would have gotten in.
That's awesome.
And but my second year there, I started thinking about, all right, I got to get serious about what I'm going to do. By that point, a lot of guys in the teams really loved the strat. They called it the gizmo. And, would say to me, like, you got to go sell these things and make $1 million. And I just kind of laughed about it, at the time, thinking, But while I was at Stanford and I was interviewing, I interviewed for some of these consulting firms, and it was just this soulless, it just sounded horrible.
Right.
And I was getting interviewed, I am 36. I just finished a squadron command at the counter-terror unit, and I'm being interviewed by these 28-year-olds that are 2 years out of business school coming back from, Bain and asking me, well, hypothetically, let me pose some questions to you. And I was just like, oh my God, I can't.
I can't do this.
I can't go do this.
If you've only seen what I've seen, son.
And so I really started getting serious about like, all right, if I'm ever going to take a shot at this crazy entrepreneurial startup, now's the time to do it, right? I got maybe one failure in me and I could still, pivot forward. And so that was when I decided, all right, I'm going to do this. And then the good news about that was I was able to use, 5 or 6 different classes as incubators for the different pieces of the business. So by the time that I graduated, now we were mostly wrong, but I had a hypothesis.
Yeah.
And I had a business plan. And so I was able to go out and raise a little bit of money and, take a run at it. And for the first, 3 years or so, it was dire. I mean, as most startups are.
Yeah.
If you happen to be one of these cats that gets so lucky that you drop into a startup that just immediately goes to the moon, one, like, be thankful to the gods. And two, don't ever think it's going to be that way again.
Right.
Yeah.
Because, like, that's just not how startups are, right? Most of them are these, like, savage, dire, gut-wrenching, 5-year experiences before you know whether it's going to live or die. And TRX was certainly in that category. So, the first 4 or 5 years, we were just trying to find it was like, we were trying to find the vein, right? To use an IV metaphor. We're just stabbing away at ourselves at the market, trying to find the vein that would actually, give us some blood.
So what was the breakthrough? If there was one,
it was a the Idea World Conference, which is a trainer and group fit conference that used to be a big deal. I think it's become less so since COVID, but it used to be one of the 2 or 3 big shows. And we went to the show and went in there with what I thought was a pretty good supply of our straps. Sold out everything the first day. Because it was trainers, right? And the trainers would come up and they would look, they'd stand back with their arms crossed, stare and watch a few demos, and they'd come up and go, okay, I got to try this. And 10 minutes later, they'd have their credit card out. Well, as a startup, right, number one, you need cash, and you need it now, right? So credit card, swipe, boom, cash on the barrelhead. Number two, you need advocacy, right? And ideally, relevant advocacy. Well, here you got trainers that touch between 50 and 500, depending on whether they're group fit instructors were even more valuable because they touch large groups of people every day, right?
And looked at as experts.
And they're looked at as gatekeepers. They are the experts that are the gatekeepers to these other people with credit cards, called members. And so we just sort of leaned into that. It was funny. I remember the second day of that show, we were out of stock. So I was selling futures. We basically took out these order forms we had, and we would fill them out. I would sign them and then tell them, all right, come back tomorrow and we'll have. And then we overnighted everything we had left on down on Terraval, overnighted it down to San Diego, and then that became
That's a great story.
Sold.
So who were you selling up to that point where you were just falling flat?
Oh, we were trying. I had a huge opportunity with Costco, which I flew.
Oh, you were trying to go direct to consumer.
Yeah, we were going direct to consumer. It was through this, our website, such as it was, which was hosted, by the way, for the tower computer at my feet. Most of like the listeners under 50 won't even know like what that means, but like websites used to be hosted in computers that sat at your feet. And so we were doing that, and we were, I was out pitching, retailers and small retailers and all the way up to Costco, which I ultimately backed out of because they had these, Costco's an incredible brand, but they had these incredible put rights to put the product back to you if it didn't sell. Right. And as it turned out in our case, we had some quality problems. And had we sold all this, had we done the deal with Costco, there never would have been a TRX.
It would bankrupt.
wow.
Yeah, it would
it would have
bankrupt.
bankrupt.
Refunds, putbacks. Oh,
Yeah, Costco. All Phil's leaning Costco.
That's crazy. So that when was that show? The trainer show? What year were we talking about?
2004.
Okay.
Yeah,
So that was really
August 2004.
That's really when it started going to the moon at that point.
It started taking off. I
Yeah.
would say it took a couple more years.
Still,
It was
okay.
probably around 2006 where we just suddenly hit this hockey stick. And then it was like, how the hell do we, keep up with it?
Yeah.
Right. And how do we not screw up the product? How do we make sure that our education, leads
That was
the
a
way?
big deal, I remember.
Yeah. And that was where our education started exploding because trainers all wanted knowledge.
Yeah.
Right. And it was kind of pre-digital. Like
Yep.
digital content wasn't a thing yet. It was our first piece of content was on a VHS, Scott. Remember?
Yeah.
Remember VHSs?
Yes, man.
Our first.
I still have some in the archive somewhere.
Yeah. Then we did like 30 DVDs over the next sort of 8 or 9 years that, which all got disintermediated by,
Internet.
truly digital, internet-based content.
So Randy, on TRX, before we move to some other topics we want to talk to you about, what is it you think about made it such an industry staple, made it had such legs, such adoption, such dynamic integration? Like,
I mean, I would certainly say I can't give enough credit to trainers, right? Because that was a big one, and club owners. I mean, guys like you guys, Warren, in both your capacities, right? As a trainer and then as a club owner. We leaned in hard to make sure that education was a huge priority so that those folks could be successful. And then we were absolutely ruthless in ensuring that our clients would be happy. Like we did negative margin deals sometimes because there was some screw up on a delivery, right? And we just said, I don't care, we're going to make it right. We're going to eat it. We're going to make it right. And that really paid off because over time, that word spreads, right? It's a big, small industry. And so that really helped us. And then we listened when, for instance, when club owners started saying, why don't you guys make other stuff that's not necessarily super innovative, but if you put your TRX flair on it, I'll buy it, like balls and bands. We did, right? We did that. And that stuff is easy to say. It's hard to do. It's hard to make great gear that doesn't break and that holds up and that has a brand essence to it that isn't just commodity, right? So we spent a lot of energy doing that. We've stayed dedicated to education all the way at different levels. When digital content became a thing, we hemorrhaged money trying to figure out how to do that, and finally have. We have an incredible app now that we're we've got some really exciting programs, both direct to consumer, but also through our club partners. And because we think of ourselves as really funny. I mean, we definitely think of ourselves as half and half commercial, half consumer. And so everything we do as a brand, even including product, we always start with some screens that we kind of hold up and look through. And one of them is it a product that can live in both environments? We're not that interested in just consumer. And we're not that interested anymore, with a few exceptions like steel, right? The bracking and stuff. Okay, you're probably not going to put a lot of that in homes. But when you talk about tools, training tools, first thing we prioritize is, will this work in both commercial and consumer? And I think, I think that has hedged us nicely. While a lot of companies got crushed by COVID, we had our biggest year ever. In 2020.
I think in 2020 you did.
Yeah, it was our biggest year ever.
I think it's even beyond that. I think it's the results people get from the modality itself. I mean, your group classes are great, but when you apply a TRX class, I mean, people get serious results. They get tone from it. They get stronger from it. They rehab on them. I mean, there's so many things that the strap does. It's just you can quantify so many avenues from it, and then it's portable. And so you nailed it by the consumer, because I think everybody has one in their house that are fitness oriented. They travel with it. So you just totally captured the market. There's been a lot of knockoffs I've noticed, or tried to, and it's crazy. People look at, like, I've gone to trade shows, I've seen all these different fucking straps everywhere. I go, poor Randy. But it's like, at the end of the day, it's still the yellow and black ones people go to. Man.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to thank you for that plug, because if I had said what you just said a minute ago about how well it works and how versatile it is, it would sound like I was like,
no, man, it's the truth. I've been doing
pushing
it for
my own dog
years,
food,
man. But yeah,
no, and that is true, and that's a cool thing about it. I mean, who knew how long of legs these straps were going to have, right? Yeah. But they work.
They work.
They work really, really well.
That's it.
And they're relatively cheap, right? Yeah. They last forever. Damn it. One set of them will last you your whole freaking life,
right?
But they hold up well in gyms, right? For the gym owners, like it's a really inexpensive, high utility, tool. And then we figured out how to build out the ecosystem of other tools around it, so that look, even if the straps could do everything most people need, which it probably could, you still need more variety. Yeah. Humans like tools, right?
Yeah.
So we've tried to keep innovating, and we've tried to keep adding. We want to have some weights. We want to have some weighted bags. We want to have some slam balls. We want to have, the Bandit, which I don't think you guys have. I should have brought one down here for you, but it was like a cool little tool that I came up with during COVID when I was bored, that pops over the top of a strength band. And it's this incredible, is
it with the grip?
Yeah.
I've seen that.
It's a grip.
Yeah.
I'll bring one down.
Cool.
Since I live just down the hill, or up the hill from you guys, I'll bring one in, because then we'll sell you a bunch of them.
Yeah, we'll buy them.
But, we've tried to be like, part of our brand essence is sort of low frills, high utility. That's kind of the TRX essence of what we do, and people seem to like it.
They're loving it.
So I'm really curious, before we move on, your perspective as a guy that's owned equipment stores, you've owned fitness franchises, you've built many clubs. So what's been your perspective of watching the evolution and adoption of TRX in the industry?
It blows my mind. It's insane, because talking about, and I can just go by the trade shows, from his 10x10 booths to, you fast forward 7-10 years, he had one of the bigger booths with huge A-frames. Staffed with, 100 people in there. Too many. But he kept expanding the SKUs and adding all the different modalities. It was a phenomenon, and
watching more and more people talk about it, watch more publicity.
It went to hypergrowth, man.
Yeah. And did you use it in the kids' studios?
We did not use those in the kids' studios. They were we could have, but the kids, we were a little smaller.
Oh, too. Okay.
But it was harder for us to teach them, because it was such a circuit training was a little bit different than the education component.
Yeah, got it.
Well, you don't need, and it's easier for that kind of environment, because you also don't need an anchor point for them, right? That's another. Yeah. That's always a thing that has at some level been a challenge, right? It's not insurmountable by any stretch, but it's it's all, you got to have something to hang them from.
Yeah.
And so I would see that in a kids program, a little older kids, great, but a little younger, it's all they want to do is swing on them, and it's like, I've raised two boys that grew up swinging on the straps, long before they ever did a row
swings, man. Yeah, no doubt.
Well, let's pivot, Randy, in our closing 10 minutes or so. Give us your take on where we're at in the fitness industry, sort of what you're up to in the fitness industry, how you're pivoting, how you're adopting, how you're taking on new products, considering new services. Just give us just riff for a bit.
Well, let's see. Let's start with where we are in the fitness industry. It's interesting, because there was so much consolidation right after COVID. And I think there's still a lot of businesses in the fitness industry that are out there that are still sick, if you will, from COVID, because they took on too much debt. They took on what they had to take on to stay alive, but they still have to pay it off. And so there's still been, and you're seeing it, there's still a lot of consolidation going on right now. But I think we're about to kind of come out of that. And once we get on an economy that look, right now the stock market just hit an all-time high, but I don't think there's the consumer confidence index matches that. There seems to be a disconnect between Wall Street and sort of
How
where
people feel.
the every man or woman feels.
Yeah.
I think when we get to our next boom cycle where every person is feeling like, yeah, we're on an upswing, I think you're really going to actually see the next kind of renaissance in the fitness industry. And it will be some of the detritus, both on the vendor side and on the club side, will have been kind of swept out, because it's really only the strong that have survived this, and will come out as an industry much stronger. I think, digital content is here to stay now. I think there were a lot of us that maybe thought, like, how long is it? Are people really going to train using digital content? But apparently the answer is yes.
Yeah.
We've leaned hard at TRX into our app, and that's really starting to show. Most of our people who adopt our app use our gear first and then discover the app and go, wow, this would be amazing when I train. Even, for people who are at gyms, when you travel, you're away from your gym. So, our app is a great bridge so that you don't just not work out for however long you're away. And that really has taken off. I think there seems to be a convergence between, like, we're looking hard into nutritional supplements now, because some of these things seem to be converging where people are thinking a lot more about, hormone balance and peptides and nutrition as a fundamental part of their exercise program, not just as something that a few highly motivated people do. I think that's changing. Consumers are getting a lot smarter. I mean, the proliferation of podcasts like the Huberman Lab and others, I mean, that's kind of high science taken down to the mainstream. And so I think the members are getting a lot smarter.
Do you think trainers 20 years from now are going to be obsolete, personal trainers, because of AI and digital content?
I don't believe that, because
I hope not.
I think they're going to have to keep up in their game.
Yeah.
Because AI, I mean, the things that AI can do,
Yeah.
I have a hard time even, like, comprehending it. Yeah. My 12-year-old built a freaking football card trading website in 2 days using AI by himself.
That's crazy.
It's and it works really well. I mean, I looked at it and I was just stunned. I was like, Hawkins, how did you do this? He's like, oh, it was easy. I just use AI.
Wow. Would you
Insane.
Would you bring a robot in as a personal trainer, or would you want to keep the human communication?
No, I think the human for sure, yeah. And I think
want to cut costs on labor.
I mean, accountability. Having an accountability partner is a big part of the trainer's role, I think. And so that human connection, I think, is going to be critical.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, look, if you're getting supplanted by AI as a trainer, you might not be that
You're
great.
not that good.
Because you should be. I mean, look, every good trainer knows this. Like, I mean, every one of them knows they're one part technician. They're at least, one part motivator and one part shrink.
Big time. More of a shrink than
2-part
anything
shrink.
else, man.
And
It's
so
insane.
if the only part that they're really competing with is the program design and the accountability factor, then they should make AI their partner.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine. I mean, if you're getting supplanted by AI as a trainer, you are not very engaging as a human being.
Yeah, I agree with that. Well said.
Yeah, I was just having a conversation with a good friend of mine about, like, when AI robots, humanist robots are all around. How is that? It's a longer
Well, we were
conversation.
talking at the Super Bowl, the commercials. It was all fucking AI commercials, and it was robots. And it's like there was no other thing. Anything they were promoting. It was nuts. Did you watch the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Did you watch the commercials?
I did. Yeah, I did.
Fucking all AI, man.
There was a lot of it. Although I do like the Waymo ads. Those are pretty good.
Those
Right?
are
Where,
good. Yeah,
where
yeah.
you're in there and you're not having to worry about the stinky driver that's listening to your conversation.
yeah.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I mean, look, I think we would be idiots. We'd certainly be old and antiquated if we didn't address the reality of AI.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Because it is real,
It's
but
absolutely real.
But I think
It's here to stay.
we got to make it our partner instead of really kind of trying to go head to head with it.
Instead of our overlord.
Yeah,
So you're involved in a product that I saw. I don't go to many shows, but I went to a show because he pulled his whatever you did, your hamstring or your knee or something.
So
he can go to
injuries.
So I represented for us, and I saw this product called the Y Bell, and I was just blown away by it. And turns out you ended up, I think, picking up the company.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
That's another one it's an example of, as TRX grows, some of the stuff we'll build, and some of the stuff we'll buy.
Yeah.
And those guys, I mean, honestly, that product is the first real innovation in a hand weight that I have seen maybe ever. I mean, it's the only other thing that I saw that I would even put in the same category of innovation was, the selectorized dumbbells when they first came out.
Power blocks.
Yeah, the power blocks.
Yeah,
like they came out and you're like, wow,
best.
that's really interesting, right? Yeah. Since then, I haven't really seen much. What the guys at the Y Bell did was they mashed together a dumbbell and a kettlebell.
Yeah.
And then they put it in a form factor that has 4 handles, right? It's triangular, a handle on each point and a handle in the center. And so in one simple idea, you mash together a dumbbell, a kettlebell, and for those who know, a center mass kettlebell where you reach into it so the weight loads around your hand. Doesn't hang off the end. Yeah. And when we saw these,
it was brilliant.
It was literally one of the guy who created it, as Lawrence walked up to my partner Jack at a Ursa 2 years ago and held it out, and Jack immediately looked at it and said, "Oh my God," and then grabbed me and came over and said, "Oh my God, look at this." Yeah. And next thing we knew, we were in a conversation to acquire them. And because it's really hard now to start a company with one product and try to survive.
So where's the love? We don't have any of those here.
Well, I was going to ask you the same thing.
Yeah. I see, touche. So are they in clubs right now? Are they in clubs?
Oh, yeah.
Is there programming around those?
Big time.
Oh, so that's...
And that's the thing that's the cool... I mean, really, we do, because you'll watch somebody who's really, really good at kettlebells kind of make a kettlebell sing, right? Yeah. I'm sure you've seen that. Y bells, I mean, you got to be with a kettlebell, you got to be really good to make it look that way, to flow with a kettlebell. And because of the design of a Y bell, it is so much easier to program flows and choreography around this tool. That, dude, the classes are savage.
They're perfect for Jordan Circuit classes and stuff like that.
Yeah, expansion.
We had kettlebell classes. We stopped them because people were just
they smashed the shit out of the back. Yeah, and a purist will tell you it's because you're not. I mean, I can hear Pavel talking to me right now saying, "Oh, it's because you do not train right, Randy." But
tell that to the newbie that's walking into the gym for the first time.
Yeah, and I would agree that, like, yes, technically if you're an expert at kettlebell, you're not going to have those things happen. But for the newbie who walks in, kettlebells are, because of the way they're loaded, right? Yeah. It's all one side. Yeah. And they're hard to train with. And
awkward.
And a little bit awkward. Yeah. I mean, with respect to my kettlebell friends, and we sell kettlebells. So, like, it's not like I like them. The Y bells are much for, and especially for kind of a high touch, experience like you guys are putting on here, you would find instantly that your people will gravitate toward
100%.
them.
We gotta get those.
We would, if you cut us a deal, because we friends and family. We'll get them in. I'd love to do a whole marketing piece on them. Yeah, like figure out a program design and just really do a nice marketing piece.
Well, we'll make that connection happen because I know you guys love them.
Yeah, done. We got a whole program around that.
So in closing, we always like to ask our guests, and you're not obligated to answer this, but what do you love about Avexia?
And you've been in a lot of clubs.
I've loved Avexia since before Avexia was even Avexia. I remember walking over here talking about, like, what you're going to put in, how are you going to put in TRXs. And I think that the people who are here in Mill Valley have a real luxury that many of them don't even know about, but your members do. And they should tell their neighbors and friends and family members. Because what you guys have done here, I do love that you've packed in not only a lot of versatility into the club itself, meaning, however you want to train, however you want to have your body work done, you want to go to classes, you've packed a lot of that in. But beyond that, you've definitely created a community here where, I think it's gotten more and more important to people. Yeah. The ability not just to sort of come hang out on the weight room floor with friends, but then to be able to walk over and, sit outside and have the spectacular views that you have of Richardson Bay and Mount Tam, and the ability to, go out and hang out in your oh so posh coffee, lounge.
Coffee lounge.
I mean, that stuff is I think really a luxury that these
we like to
folks
think
here.
of ourselves as the antidote to AI isolation and
But
loneliness.
he
right?
lives 5 minutes from her and has not even worked out here once. What is up?
Well, that's not true. I have worked out here once. I
He
came
did
with my
work out
son.
here once, yeah.
That's right.
Well, look, I'm always in my dungeon. If you come up to my house sometime,
Give me an invite. I'll be there.
you would walk into my training room and you would go, "Oh, now I get
I
it."
understand, yeah.
And given the life that I lead, the manic life that I lead, like
Time's at a premium.
I run in and I grind out 40 minutes of self-crushing sort of I'll put on a UFC fight, and I'll get on my Concept 2 or Versa Climber or the skill
Versa
run.
Climber?
I got a skill run, a Concept 2, a Versa Climber, and then every tool that TRX makes,
Big daddy.
all packed in a room not much bigger than this. It's truly the dungeon. And so I have a hard time.
I get it.
I have a hard time getting out. Don't take it personally. If I were going to go to any gym, I would work out at this
I'm
one.
just busting your balls, man.
I would.
Please come back and say hi more often.
That I
Don't talk to
should.
each other,
That I
man.
can.
We love you, man.
Yeah.
We admire you and honor you so much for what you've done for the fitness industry, man.
That's too kind by half.
Oh,
but
come
I
on now. Come on.
appreciate it.
The fact that you carved out this time for us, you're a busy man because you got some shit going on in Florida with a great company, and you got another company starting up here called Outfit, which we're familiar with. We see it starting to evolve, and
I'll come back on when
Can't wait to see
once
more about
once I
that.
got that thing off the ground. We'll come back and talk about it.
Good
Yeah, it's
one,
pretty cool, man. It's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
appreciate you, Randy.
I appreciate you guys.
Thanks for coming on, man.
My pleasure.
That's a wrap, Scott.
That's a wrap.
Until next time, who do we have on next?
I don't know yet. Who do we have on next, booking agent? No, somebody interesting, and we would love to have you back anytime you want to come. Man.
We'll do it again.
That's a wrap.
Thanks, Randy.
Thank you, brother.